Okay, so this is a yoga session where we're moving to really work the hips, the lower backs, the insides of the thighs, backs of the calves, also working on the shoulder joint because we're heading towards Trikonasana, which is a 3-angled pose. Tri is 3 in Sanskrit and Kona is an angle, so Trikonasana. Only do as much as you can, and if you feel uncomfortable or you feel you're over pushing, I would always recommend pulling back, making it easier on yourself. So take it nice and slow. Yoga's non-competitive, and you know that feeling of no pain, no gain, that doesn't really apply to yoga at all. What we're trying to do here is to come into our body, notice what we're feeling, and adapt the poses that feel just right for us. So those who are listening to this recording live, remember you can unmute at any time and feel free to ask me a question. And you can even ask me a question on messages if you don't want it coming through live on the recording. Okay, so we're starting in Shavasana, the corpse pose. So lying down on your back with legs straight or knees bent, depending on how your lower back feels, or if that really feels too much for you, lying on your left side or right side, whatever feels best for your body. I do recommend Shavasana, corpse pose, because if we can do it without feeling pain, it's a deeply relaxing pose for the body. So I'll do it with you. And I always recommend making yourself as comfortable as possible, having a blanket beneath you, and if possible, a blanket on top of you. Because lying still, you can get cold very quickly. And then if you've got an eye pillow around, you can put the eye pillow on your eyes. And those of you who have been my students for a while know, first of all, it really helps to come into the present moment. So we're going to, yet again, practice the 3-minute breathing space, where the first minute we check in mind, emotions, body. Second minute, being aware of body being breathed. And the third minute is combining those all together to be totally present in this moment. So, first minute, how is the mind doing? Just noticing. And I don't normally ask you this, but do you feel if the mind is sort of tight or heavy or foggy? Because you might be stressed, or the brain itself might be just wanting to switch off. So the mind, the consciousness goes a bit dim. And if you notice any of those, please bring enormous amounts of compassion to that awareness. Remembering it's hard to be human. And then we'll turn to the emotions, just noticing how we're feeling emotionally. Again, bringing kindness and tenderness and affection to whatever you find at the emotional level. Remember, feelings are always there for a reason. We may not know the reason sometimes, but they're always there for a reason. So it's no use telling yourself you mustn't feel this. Let's push that feeling down and away. It's trying to signal something. Okay, so warm awareness, warm tender awareness of the emotional level. And now we'll move to the body. And you can either scan the body, say from the toes slowly to the head, or head slowly to the toes, or you can go to areas that you know are a bit iffy, maybe a sprain or sore knee, and check in with those first. So whichever you feel best, but hopefully ending up being aware of the whole body. So how does it feel in this moment? Okay, and then the second minute, obviously I'm extending the minutes, but the second minute technically is being aware of the body being breathed and your breath coming and going. This breath going in, this pause, and this breath going out. This amazing miracle of the breath keeps going even when you're sleeping. And if you notice the mind wandering off, completely normal. Just gently encourage it back to awareness, maybe of where you feel your body being breathed, how the body moves as you breathe. And then the third minute is being aware of where you are in this room, your body being breathed, your mat, how you feel emotionally, how you feel mentally. And just staying aware for the third minute as much as possible of all levels, completely mindfully aware in this moment. So if you're lying there and you have a blanket on you, if you could just move the blanket away. And we'll start with some simple stretches. So from corpse pose, bring your legs to parallel to each other and bring the toes towards you. So you can feel that that's stretching the calves at the back. And then breathe in, bring the arms up to the heavens and then lower them behind you, more or less arms parallel. And then we can move the right fingers further away, the left fingers further away, the right, left, just that extra stretch, and you'll feel it extending the abdominal area. And then do the same with the heels. So right heel push away, left heel push away, right heel push away, left heel push away, toes towards you. Okay. And then lower the shoulders down to the ground because the body came up a little. And breathing into that. And for a moment, pull in your belly button area. Just compression, massage compression into the digestive organ area. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Lovely. And then breathing out, bring the hands down. And bend the knees, so left foot, sole of the foot on the floor, right sole of the foot on the floor. And just make sure that your back of your neck, the cervical vertebra at the back of the neck, are comfortably aligned, so your chin isn't pointed to the ceiling. And I'd like you to stretch your arms out to the side in Maltese cross. We'll just do those gentle twists. So if you could breathe out, take your knees down to the left and let your right foot just rest on top of your left foot and turn your head to the right. Okay, and breathe in, come up, and then do the other side, take the knees to the right and turn your head to the left. So these are simple twists. Keep going with the breathing. Breathing out, going down. Breathing in, coming up. Alternate sides, always looking the opposite way. And just see if you can enjoy that. It's a lovely feeling of slightly rocking and twisting from side to side. Okay, and then I'd like you to, next time you're down on the left, just stay there, look to the right. And relax the body as though you're going to sleep in this position. Just let the body weight sink downwards into the ground, letting go completely. And it's doing a wonderful stretch from the top part of the ascending colon on the right hand side of the body, diagonally across down to the bottom part of the descending colon, just around the area of the left hip. So right across the small intestines, we've got that lovely stretch, as well as, of course, some movement and twisting into the spine, middle part of the spine. So let's breathe in, next in breath, up we come. Breathe out, going down to the right and look to the left. And again, comfortably letting go. So we're going to sleep. And this time we've got the stretch from just under the left part of the rib cage, across down to the right hip. And it seems such a simple pose that many people overlook it. You know, not hard work, so can't be that good for me. It's wonderfully beneficial, this pose. Okay, so breathing in, coming up, the knees, and I'd like you to bring the right knee towards you, applying pressure to the right ascending colon, and rotate the right ankle by moving your foot in circles. And use your hands onto your, just around your knee, just to pull that knee in some more, but watch that you don't tense the shoulders if you can, and keep your face nice and relaxed. And then rotate the foot the other way. Okay. And then release rotations of the foot and ankle, just bringing that knee in a bit closer. Okay, and then release that foot to the ground, knee bent, and bring up the left leg. So if you have a sore ankle or your ankle's playing up, you don't have to do these rotations. But for those of you who want to do a bit of ankle lubrication work, keeping it flexible, you rotate one way for a while, whilst pulling in that left knee against the descending colon. And then rotate that ankle the other way. Okay, good. And then bring both knees up and clasp quite firmly your hands together and compress the knees onto the abdominal area. So you get some compression against the transverse colon that's running along from the right to the left, just underneath your rib cage there. And some pressure on the ascending on the right and descending colon on the left. And then the small intestine wriggling around in the middle of the belly area. And then let's rock from side to side. And this is a Vayu pose. It's a wind releasing pose. So just rocking gently, and you'll feel some massage again on the belly, but also on the back, on either side of the spine. But remember to relax the face, relax the shoulders. Your forearms and hands are doing the clasping work. Okay, and then place the hands palm downwards, left hand on left knee, right hand on right knee, and describe big circles with the knees. And if you find that you'd like to do bigger circles, let the hands rest on the floor and make even bigger circles with the knees. It's up to you. And you can feel that that's doing a lovely massage into the back. You're going one way for a while, and then you go the opposite way. So also onto the digestive organs again. And it's one of the reasons we advise not eating a large meal within 2 hours of starting your yoga practice, because there's a lot of compression on the digestive area, and that could be really uncomfortable for you. So it's not advised. It's not good for your digestion to be compressing it while there's loads of food that it's trying to digest. Okay, and then when you've done that, bring the knees in again and just pull in. Okay, and then stretch the hands up to the ceiling. And I want you to kick your feet up to touch your hands, your fingers. Okay, so you're doing leg kicks up to touch. I might be wrong, but this reminds me of the Isle of Man symbol, something like that. And then straighten the legs and hold behind the thighs. Okay, so you want your legs either up completely straight, right angles from the body, and bring the toes down. We'll do that first. And then encouraging the legs over, toes more towards the head. So this is where you have to work out for yourself. If your ankles are hurting, obviously don't bring down the toes quite so strongly. And if your hamstrings, the backs of the legs are really tight, you can bend the knees a little and bring the legs over a bit more. Okay. For those of you who feel that you want to, you could reach up to the toes and you could encourage them over a little bit more. So if normally for all of us, the backs of the legs can feel a bit tight. And if you know they're tight, but they're up to being stretched, you can sort of bend one. I'm bending the right knee away from it, that's away from the screen. And then I'm bending the left. So just giving that extra stretch. One straight, one bent, one straight, one bent. And then eventually going back to trying to have both straight, but it's not easy. And trying to bring them more over. If you feel pain in the lower back, I would recommend doing this much full bends, because lower back pain is a contraindication for doing this. Because if you think about it, it's like the forward bend that we do when we're standing. It's getting close to that. We don't want, if you've got bulging discs in your lower back, we don't want to bulge them some more. Okay. All right, and then bring the soles of the feet together by bending the knees out to the sides. Holding on to the outside of the feet. Okay, now technically, and some of you may wish to try this, bringing the toes to the forehead. But again, it's a very strong compression into the abdominal area where there are lots of organs that don't like being squashed so much. So you might get a stomach cramp doing this if you do it too strongly and your tummy's not happy. Okay, and then legs back up to the ceiling. Take the hands, clasp them behind the head, familiar clasp. Shuffle around with the top of the back, shoulder area, so it's comfy, not under any strain. Probably feel that lovely feeling of the legs being, they're not taking any weight now, they're having a nice rest, hanging around, literally putting your legs up, putting your feet up. And we'll just do the bicycling. So let's do some really exaggerated bicycling. As though your heel is going to touch the floor and your knee is coming close to the face. So this is good for strengthening back muscles and abdominal muscles. Also really good for lubricating the knee and the hip joints more, encouraging and sending signals to the brain to send more synovial fluid into those joints. Okay, let's do backward cycling, exaggerated. And you can sense how much your abdominal muscles are really working to do this. And eventually I get to the stage where you think, please, let's stop. So let's put the feet down wider than we normally do, maybe even as wide as a mat width. And then just knock the knees together for a moment. Let them rest. Close the eyes, nothing to do. Breathe. Okay, and then I'd like you to try bend the knees again, feet on the floor, and I'd like you to try bringing the right leg up and holding onto the toes if possible. If you can't, maybe putting a belt around that foot and holding on with a belt, okay? Make sure you're going to have enough room on your right hand side because we're going down with the leg to the right. So the leg is up in the heavens. Take your left arm out to the side, Maltese cross, right ankles coming out from the shoulder. And then breathing out, the leg goes down to the right. And you look to the left. Okay, so you're going to find this interesting in all sorts of ways. The left foot might want to roll over and lean over to the right. See if you can see it, see if you can keep it with the left sole of the foot evenly distributed weight through onto the floor. You're probably going to feel it on the inside of the right thigh. See if you can keep that leg straight if you can. If it's too difficult, obviously do bend it. And see if you can get your left shoulder to move out more to the left and your left ear to move onto the ground. Okay, relaxing into that as you stay there. Okay, and then on the next in-breath, bend the right leg and bring it back. Position it comfortably on the floor. And you can guess what we're going to do next. So you can put the right hand out to the right angles to the body. The left foot comes up and you either place a belt around that foot or you hold onto the toe if you can. And either way is good. And then on the out breath, we go down to the left with that leg. Okay. Trying to reach the floor, trying to keep the right foot, sole of the foot on the floor, and then moving the head so that you can look to the right, encouraging the right ear towards the floor, and breathing into the pose. So once you're in the pose, you might be able to straighten that left leg a little, or it might be easier on one side than the other. This pose is Supta Tadasana. And trying to keep that right knee facing the ceiling if you can. Again, it'll want to try and join the left leg and go over to the left. Relax the shoulders, relax the face. Just breathing into that. And as you know, I always say, once you're in a pose, and if you're fairly comfortable in it, every now and again, just make a check, scan through the body, because you might need to adjust it so you don't overstretch or understretch or pull something. But more or less relaxing in the pose and then letting the pose work on you while you rest in it, which is why there's really no rush. And then bend the knees. And that knee, bring both knees up to the chest. And again, hold on, pull in, relax the shoulders. And it's up to you now whether you want to just rock from side to side, or whether you want to do circles with the knees, or whether you want to stay still and just pull the thighs in close. Okay. So next, we're going to do Setu Bandhasana, the bridge. So if you've got socks on, you might need to take them off. You also might, I've still got my blanket underneath me. So I'm going to have to move that out of the way so I can actually get the benefit of being on the yoga mat so my feet don't slip. But obviously keep your blankets nearby because you might need them again. And the nice thing about doing yoga at home is that you can have all your gear just where you want it. Okay, so settled Tadasana. Let's bring the heels quite close up to where the sitting bones are really. So heels close up to the body. Then just feel the weight distribution through your feet, because most people will be either on the ball of the foot or heel of the foot, and I want it to be even weight distribution if you can. Okay, so just checking that. And then next, arms to start with, shoulders away from the head, palms down towards the floor, chin towards the chest, okay? So the more the chin is towards the chest at this point, the better, as we're lying here. So it's as though you're trying to look at your toes down there. And then let's just rock the pelvis towards us and away from us. That lovely gentle pelvic rock. And you can immediately feel thighs begin to engage, front thigh muscles, spine starts to work and bend, arching and curving. Okay. And interestingly, the femur, as it goes into its socket, the thigh bone, as it goes into that hip socket, is moving around in that socket, nice and gently, just getting ready for what we're about to do. And then again, pause for a moment, stop. Check your feet, check your ankles, that you're not going to collapse inwards or outwards on the ankle. Okay. If you've got a problem with an ankle, you can put more weight through the other side. So if you've got a problem in your left ankle, you could put more weight through the right foot and give the left ankle a rest. And you can even stretch the left leg out and let it rest as we go up. It'll feel a bit funny because you'll end up with it almost hanging around in the air, but you know, adapt. So let's go up. Let's breathe in, arms go up, pelvis goes up. At the end of the in-breath, back to the hands on the floor behind us. And we've lifted the pelvis right up and the chin is tucked in. Hopefully the thighs are parallel to each other. Even weight through the feet. Breathing out, we come down. Arms coming down in sync, synchronized to the hips. Then we push the pelvis away from us on the non-breath. And then breathing in, up we go. And let's just do that for a while with our own breathing rhythm. If you get pain through the front of the kneecap, you might need to move the feet further away from the hips. Remember, at the end, when you're down on the floor, push the pelvis away, which arches the back. It's like a little bridge from your mat to your spine, little arch. And then when you come up, just check that weight distribution through the feet. Check the ankle. Okay. And then on the next up, tuck the chin in, stay there for a while, lifting the pelvis some more, as though somebody put one of our yoga belts around your hips and was lifting you up to the heavens. And again, if either of your ankles feel a little bit iffy, you can put more weight through on the other side. It will make the thigh work more on the other side, but it takes a good deal of strain off a sensitive or sore ankle. Keep the chin tucked in, thighs parallel. It can feel a bit tiring after a while. And there are a few poses you're allowed to tremble in. Normally, if you tremble in a yoga pose, it's an indication you should come out because your body's saying enough, enough, enough. But we're allowed to have a leg tremble, a little bit of leg trembling in this pose, the bridge pose. That's probably enough. And then breathing out, coming down, hands coming down in sync. Okay, and then let the knees go out wide to each side and the sole of the feet meeting. So we're doing a lying down cobbler pose. And your hands, you can choose. You could have palms resting on the tops of your thighs, hip area, your hands resting palm downwards on your belly, your hands at the sides, palms upwards. Just wherever you feel your arms might be comfortable. And for a moment, we won't do anything because we'll wait for the work we did in the bridge pose, Tadasana, to actually be absorbed by the body. Let's not get in the way, let's not move too quickly. Just letting it happen. And you can do the yoga pose where you just lift the corners of your mouth up a bit. Little smile. And then rock the knees from side to side. So you're moving from right to left on your pelvis. Good. And then bring the knees up again. There's a lot of opening up and bringing the knees up, but bring the knees up and at the tailbone lift off the floor a little, and then reach between the knees towards your feet and holding on the instep of your feet. So your palm is on the instep, bringing the knees down to the armpits. So your feet are quite wide. They're wider than your hip width. Hopefully the soles of the feet are parallel to the ceiling, presuming you've got a flat ceiling, not a sloping ceiling. And then just keep moving, if you can, keep moving the knees wider apart from each other and lower down. Okay. When you eventually feel that you've got the knees at their maximum wide apart, bring the chin into the chest, push the tailbone towards the floor. Okay, so you're flattening out on the pelvis, chin to chest, and then eventually let go in the shoulders. Hands are doing the work, but let go in the shoulders. Relax the face. Again, a wind releasing pose, applying quite a lot of pressure to the ascending and descending go on. Just breathing into that. Okay, and then one of my favorite bits next is crossing the ankles and holding on to the big toes, and we'll roll along our spine. So we're not getting up yet, we're just rolling along the spine. So swinging the legs over the head and then swinging back, rocking the feet to the floor, off the head, nearly to the floor, off the head. So you're going all the way along the spine, massaging back muscles until eventually you can roll and rock up into your sitting. Okay. Good. I hope you're all right with that. And we'll do the full Baddha Konasana, seated Baddha Konasana. So helps to have a wee block or cushion of some sort of that just thickness, or 2 blocks that make your normal yoga block about that size, or a wee cushion about so big, if you can see that. And just popping that underneath your tailbone, pulling back buttock muscles. Okay. So at the moment I'm sitting in easy Sukhasana, but we're moving into the Cobbler Pose. So bringing both of the soles of the feet together and then pulling them in. So some people have a great deal of problem with these knees. They're up like this. And if they're up like that and it's a strain, quite often men have very stiff hip joints. So I tell them, don't worry about it. Just place something underneath so that your leg can rest on it rather than it hanging around feeling the strain of it. Cushions, pillows, whatever will help support yoga blocks. Okay, so and adjust the pose, adjust your seat. Kind of the aim is to get the heels as close in to the torso as possible. And where you put the hands is kind of up to you. Quite often people rest them around the ankle, palms on the ankle or on the toes. Okay, but trying to relax into it. And then the difficult thing when I'm watching students is they quite often forget to raise up from the crown of the head. So really lifting up from here, so you're being pulled upwards from the crown of the head and not taking the chin up. So again, always being aware of those 7 neck vertebrae. We want them to get them at the perfect equilibrium balance as they stack against each other when we're in this pose. So comfortably sitting for a moment, maintaining your height and length. Check your shoulders aren't too far forwards. Might need to roll them back a little. Mine were a little bit high, a little bit tight there as I move to poses. Closing the eyes, breathing into the pose, enjoying the pose. And hopefully that feels quite comfortable. So if you had a mirror that you could see towards your side, looking left or right, you could just check that you're not collapsing on the lower part of the back, that it's not slumped. And then this is not so easy, I know. It's compression again into the abdominal area. So a lot of digestive abdominal area work this evening in this class. So we're going to go forward. And you might think, oh heck, and yes, it is a little bit tricky. The major thing to do is to make sure that the rib cage here is not close to the hips. So take the hands up, that helps. Reach up to an imaginary something up there and really extend your rib cage away from the pelvis. So you can feel that's giving those internal organs much more space. And then a little bit more, just that extra. Okay, and then going forward. Now we're not obviously probably going to get our foreheads to the ground, but we go forward and release the hands to the ground, and then you can slide them back once you know you've got the extended pelvis to abdominal areas big and long as possible. So you're not just going to scrunch up your internal organs. Then anybody who wishes to, once you've got into that pose, you can hold your toes, keep them toasty warm with your hands, and lower the forearms to the ground, and drop the chin to the chest, and go as low as you can. Now, checks. If ankles are hurting, release that leg out a bit. If front of the kneecap is hurting, that's the knee saying too much. Please, no more. So if you think, yes, that's me, front of kneecap hurting, you bring the feet further away from the torso, then you go down, okay? And you'll feel that instantly reduces the pressure on the front of the kneecap. And it's actually easier to go down too. So breathing into that, all sorts of wonderful stretches happening, hips, internal thigh, in the inner thighs, spine. Think of the crown of the head going away, past the toes, forward, lengthening the spine, lengthening the abdominal area, breathing into it. And it's really stretching the adductor muscles in here in the inner thighs. Once you've learned that trick of bringing the feet forward, if you've got too much pressure on your front kneecap, it certainly makes this pose much easier to do, and you might actually like it more. You know, that's been hurting before. Then breathe in, come up, lengthen up, and have the palms facing each other. Okay, but drop the shoulders. Okay, so technically the arms are parallel to each other. And then bring your right hand down and your left hand goes over. So we're doing a side stretch with Cobbler Pose for the legs. And then breathe in, come up. Both hands up, breathe out the other way. And over we go. So we're going over very much at right angles. We're not leaning forward and we're not bringing this top shoulder forward to do it. We're going very much just sideways. So this nice long stretch along the right hand side of the body as the left hand touches the floor. Okay, and breathe in and come up. And breathe out, go down. So I'd like you to do a few more of those. And normally I'd say breathe out, go down, breathe in, come up. And this one you breathe out, go down. And then when you're down, you stay in for a little. So it's beginning to, you know, when we do Trikonasana, the triangle, we're going to need these open sides of the body. Okay, coming up, going down. Okay, lovely. Breathe in and come up. Breathe out, bring the hands down. And I'd like you to stretch your right leg out to the front. So facing towards me. And I'd like you to bend your left knee coming in. Okay, it helps if I do this actually sideways on and see it better. You can still have a nice little bit of a lift around the tailbone. Okay, and so you've got your right leg out, your toes are coming towards you, you're stretching the back of the calf. Okay, your left heel is coming in close to the body. Okay, your left hand goes around the back and becomes the staff. Your right hand either holds on to the outside of that left knee like so, and you pull it to the center so it doesn't start to splay out to the left. Okay, you know what's coming, it's one of the twists. Oh, sorry, those hand positions, outside, round, or even elbow round that knee and the hand right down the thigh. Okay, and then you breathe in, lengthen up, as always, to get that space, and breathe out, turn, and look over your left shoulder, even right round into your peripheral vision there if you can. Breathe in, lengthen up, breathe out, twist a bit more, breathe in, lengthen up, breathe out, twist a bit more. Don't forget the right foot though. You might want to do some funny things. Keep the right toes coming towards the body, right heel pushing away. And it's one of those poses, it's a little bit tricky to get into. It's nice to stay in it once you're there. And I'd like you to think about what's your belly doing. It's traffic jamming against your left thigh. We can adjust that when we do the other side. Okay. All right, on the next out breath, releasing, coming round, and then doing it on the other side. You don't have to move, it's just that if I don't move position, I'll be able to see you. I know you'll see me so easily. So we had the right leg straight before. This time it's the left leg straight, left toes towards the torso, right leg, knee comes up, and we've got that traffic jamming probably occurring already. So how about just let that right leg relax a little down a bit. And then that wonderful, beautiful belly that we have, can you turn it to the right already? Then bring the knee up. And it gets the belly round into this area, just above the hip a bit more. Then the left hand is going to find its nice position onto that right leg. Okay. And the right hand comes around the back. At this point, I always have to check my spine, and it has begun to slump. So crown at head lifting upwards. You could do fingers on that right hand onto the floor. You can do fists. You might even want to take a block behind you to give yourself even more of a lift. Did you see that? I went up about 2 inches. And then breathe in, lengthen up, breathe out, turning round. Careful not to have that right shoulder too high. And again, breathe in, lengthen up, breathe out, looking round, turning round. Breathe in, lengthen up, breathe out. So you're trying to look into your right peripheral vision there. Turning the neck vertebra much as possible. Keeping that right knee up, pointing to the ceiling. Left toes coming towards the torso. That lovely twist. Marichyasana. And then release. Wonderful, wonderful. Releasing round. Pausing for a moment, sitting just with your feet straight in front of you. Okay, we don't need to be sitting on a cushion or a block at the moment. So you can place that down. But do pull the sitting muscles back, buttock muscles back, seat back, toes towards you. Okay, so we're going to go into Tadasana, okay, the Eastern stretch. So take the hands and technically, the fingers are facing away from you. So technically, it's like so. I find that really hard. Don't know why, it doesn't really work for me. So I quite often go on to fists, and I have the backs of my hands facing my toes. But you can have them facing outwards. You can really just adjust until your arms are comfortable, whatever works for you. You can even have the hands with the fingers pointing away from the body on both sides. But just find something that's comfortable. So this stretch is where we do kind of a plank, but the other way around. So instead of the body, our face facing the floor, we're facing the ceiling. So the toes are going to go down to the floor. You straighten out the legs, then you lift the torso, and you can place the head back onto the upper back. Okay, if you want, you can point the toes, depends on how your ankle's feeling or your feet, how they're feeling there. And continuing to lift the pelvis, which is wanting to sink down to the floor. The thighs and knees are probably wanting to go out to the sides, go wide. No. We try and keep them parallel. And push through upper arm, down through the arms. You've got that lift. You're really using the arm strength to lift up chest area. Okay, and then eventually, probably had enough. Releasing down, bring the toes towards you as you come down. Okay, and then your poor wrist probably didn't like that too much, or your knuckles or whatever. So we'll do these simple wrist rotations. Relax the feet, let the legs relax, do nothing at the moment as we do these simple wrist rotations. Wrist movement, so lubricating into that joint. And remember, you can do these several times through the day. Poor wrists, you know, they need rotating more, we're not doing it enough. So that probably felt a bit like hard work. So rubbing the hands together, bringing the feet relaxed to cross-legged for a moment. Rubbing the hands. If you have glasses on, take them off. And then just place the warm palms onto the eyes and just let the head drop. As you go with the elbows bent, you're sort of holding your face as though you're going, oh my goodness. But actually you're not, you're just relaxing the eyes into that velvet darkness. Pausing for a moment to relax the shoulders. Relax the jaw if you can. Lovely, just letting go. And then when you do release, you can caress the whole face with your hands. Okay. So we're getting close to where we were heading, which is the triangle. So the next pose, if you roll over onto all fours and lean, separate the knees, okay, and if it's comfortable to do so, either place the head on the floor, stretch the arms out for a moment, or place fist on fist and put the forehead on the fists. If this hurts knees or ankles, you can adjust by going just into table for a minute and doing leg lifts, because that puts the weight, if it's the knee that's okay, put the weight a little bit through the knee. But where we're heading in this is the downward facing dog, so be careful as we go up into it. So stretch the arms out, weight onto the knees, tuck the toes under, up we go. And again, if there are leg or ankle problems, you can put weight through one leg. The other leg can actually even come off the floor. So you're doing the downward facing dog with one leg lift. Okay. Otherwise, those of you using both feet, you can do the step, which is like a wiggle, where the heel comes down on one leg and the other foot almost comes off the floor. And then the heel goes down on the other leg. And you just keep doing that. Okay. Like you might have seen runners when they're at the starting blocks, they're just getting their knees and the backs of the legs stretched, getting ready to go. Then eventually just lowering down both ankles and taking the tailbone up to the heavens and chin to chest. If you can do the base lock, do, if you know it. If you can do the abdominal lock, do, if you know it. And the chin lock, and we can get into the great lock, the Maha Bandha. So it's a wonderful calf stretch. It's the total opposite of wearing high-heeled shoes, which shrinks the calf, shortens it, just lengthens it. Okay, and then coming down from there onto the knees, flatten the feet, come right down, stretch the arms out, long, 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 long. Okay. Let the shoulders wide, down towards the floor. And then when you've done that nice long stretch through the back, slide the hands, palms upwards to the feet and just rest in Balasana, the child pose. Forehead on the floor. If your belly feels constricted by your thighs, you can always move your knees a little bit wider. So you've got some space in there for your wonderful belly. And are you able to breathe better then? Okay, just resting in that pose. Being fairly comfortable, no rush. Because we're going to come up to standing from here. So enjoy the rest while you have it. Okay. So a couple of poses to do, and we're nearly at the end. So from there, come up, slide up until you're kneeling, and then put the hands onto the floor, and then pull them back. So you're onto your toes, up onto the toes, walk up, bend the knees, place the hands on the knees, up you come. Nice slow progression into your standing pose. Okay. Relaxing into that, the mountain pose, Tadasana. Okay, and if again any part of the leg, hip, knee on one side is feeling a bit iffy, needs protecting, you can always lean it almost imperceptibly and put more of the weight through the other leg. And if you think you will accidentally not do that, you can lift the leg you're trying to rest off the floor. So no way is it going to get compromised. And then what I'd like you to do, it's a side stretch again, because remember we're heading for this triangle pose. So widen the feet a little from Tadasana. Normally Tadasana, the feet are directly under these front hip joints here. Okay, so let's just widen them a little from there. Take the hands down the sides, arms downwards on the thighs. And then I want you to turn, slide, and then look up. Okay, so if you're sliding, the body's at right angles, sliding down, but then the head looks up to the ceiling. So I'm going down my right side, then I breathe in, come up, and then I go down my left side, and I breathe in and I look up, breathe out, come up, breathe in, lengthen, breathe out, down the other side, turn the head, breathe in, breathe out, take that arm a bit deeper, always on the out breath, okay, try to go deeper into a pose. Okay, and then coming up, breathe out, down the other side, breathe in, turn the head, breathe out, sliding the hand down a little bit more, and breathe in and come up. Lovely, shake out the hands. So, Kuna Asana. So again, for those of you, I know people have knee problems, hip problems, ankle problems. So remember, if you want to, you can do all the heavy work just on one side. Normally we do Trikonasana, going to the right, and Kuna Asana, going to the left. You don't have to if you're protecting a certain part of the body. So adjust it accordingly and don't necessarily do what I'm doing. So what we do for Kuna Asana is we put the right foot forward, okay, along the mat, and it's pointing, say the front of your mat here is 12 o'clock. So that foot is pointing to 12 o'clock. Then we follow the midpoint of that heel there, back in a straight line, and we adjust the back foot. So where that instep starts on that back foot is in that line. So some people have lines marked on their yoga mat. That's really quite useful, okay? The next thing we have to check, though we don't bend the knee in Trikonasana, is just that we've got the hip right. And the way to check that is you bend the knee, and some people were wrongly told decades ago that they had to line up against a wall to do this pose. So the hips were here, flat against the wall, buttock muscles flat against the wall. And then when they bent the knee, then when they went over, everything was wrong in the hip. And if you look down, if you do this like me, you pretend you're against a wall, you look down, your knee is actually desperately trying to go to 10 o'clock, which would seriously compromise that knee joint. So what we do to get that right is we look down at the knee, we bend that front knee to check what's going on, and we bend it so that it's going directly over the second toe, the one next to the big toe, which means it's going exactly as a hinge joint, which is what it's designed to do. It's a hinge joint that unfortunately has the capacity to do other things, which is how it gets injured. But it is actually a hinge joint. So we only do that to check. So it's bent there, go back to your pelvis and hips. Okay, feel where they are. Straighten that leg and keep your pelvis where it is. Mine, if there was a line, would be about 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock. That's the line of my pelvis. It's not straight against the wall. It's like there. Then the arms go up. The crown of the head goes up. Both legs are straight. Okay, so I'm going over in the direction of that straight foot pointing at 12 o'clock. But remember, hips to rib cage, we have a lot of very sensitive organs in here. So we need this space to be big first. So lift it up, lift it up, lift the crown up, make that space big. And then imagine there's a bar here, where my right hand is waving around. You want to kind of get your rib cage up and over, not just collapse and down, but up and over, like this, up and over. I don't mind where your right hand touches your leg. I mean, traditionally, you see on the magazines that the models kind of have the hand right down on the floor. If that works for you, great. But you don't have to be down that low. But once you get down into position, I'd ask you to look up at your hand, and hopefully it's going straight up to the ceiling. You're looking up at it. That's Trikonasana 1. Okay, you're looking up at it. And then Trikonasana 2 is, it goes right over past the ear. It's trying to reach down to touch your right toes. Okay, so that is quite a stretch. And to make it more so, push your back ankle away from you a little, because it'll be collapsing into the center. Okay, keep your top shoulder from falling forward. It needs to be in line with that 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock line. You can slightly bend that front knee if it's pulling too much on your inner thigh. Okay, but it's a strenuous pose. And then probably maximum to stay in this pose once we've done all this work would be 3 minutes, but I'm not going to make it stay next 3 minutes. If you're feeling tired, take the arm back up, hopefully straight up to the ceiling, and look up. Make sure it's not going forward. And then you can bend the front knee. The 2 ways to get out, you can either go up using your right elbow to push on your right bent knee to push up, or you can bring your left hand down and then kind of heel toe a little closer, the legs together, and come up. But I think you've got the gist of when you come out of a pose that's tricky, you'll be tired. So we always advise thinking through the safest way to maneuver little small steps to come out. If you're very tired, it's usually safer to go down before you come up. If you think you've got enough energy, you can use your strength to come up out of it. Okay, so you need to kind of move a bit, jiggle a bit, wriggle out the arms, wriggle out the legs, and of course, as you know, we did it on one side, and technically, unless there's an injury on the other side, we always do poses on both sides. So shaking out a bit. There's only one pose to do after we've done this, and then we can go into the breathing and relaxation. So that's a nice thought. We've worked very hard, and this is the culmination of all that hard work. So it's going to be the other foot now going out. So it's the left foot going out, pointing at 12 o'clock along your mat. Look back at your foot behind you. That's slightly pointing in. It's not at right angles on your mat away from you. It's slightly, see how I've pull my toes in to there, but I want that line, that 12 to 6 o'clock line, middle of the front heel to start with that instep. Okay, then I want the pelvis to check the pelvis. So bend that front knee, check it's actually going properly over the foot, the hinge joint doing the right thing. My hands on the hips, check it's there. Once I've checked my hips are in the right position, I can straighten that front knee. Okay, keep my hips there. That I suppose now it's 5 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Yeah. So then bring the top of the torso, my shoulders are more or less facing out like that in the line 6 to 12 o'clock. Okay, and unlike the warrior, you know, we're actually going to lean, so we have to think about lengthening up, extending up in the torso, again rib cage away from the pelvis. Okay, and then lifting up and bring that left hand down, somewhere on that left leg. Probably best to start higher up than being ambitious. The other hand goes up into the heavens. Palm is facing to the front, same way your front chest is facing, okay? And gently encouraging yourself into that. You may be finding it easier on one side than the other. Looking up at that arm if you can, without losing your balance. If you wanted to, you could put a block by that front leg, one of my blocks, so that you could put your hand on that, if that helped. You know, always having your blocks handy, so you could get the support, like so. Always using them if you think it'll help, because what we're trying to do is get into the pose, Trikonasana this time, with no strain, body without sort of struggling and straining and generally not feeling happy. So blocks are not cheating, blocks are wonderfully helpful tools to get the pose working just right for us. And then if you can, the arm goes over into Theta Trikonasana, extended, deeply extended, so that we can feel the stretch from that back right ankle all the way through, all the way through, all the way through, under the armpit, along the upper arm, stretching the toes, fingers towards the toes of the left foot. And you can look forward, or you can try and look up through that upper arm. Push your right hip down and away from you. And see what it feels like in the body at this time. Your body will be sending out signals to you. It might be saying, careful of your front knee. Or, ooh, feels good on my right side. So listening in, tuning in, not to get in the way. Okay, that's probably enough. Bring the arm up to the heavens. Remember, about 3 minutes is about the maximum on each side, and that's pretty long for most people. And then decide, do you want to go down? Do you have enough energy to come up from here, or do you want to go down? I think I've got enough energy on this side to come up, so I'm bending my left knee, placing my left elbow on it, bend it some more, place my left hand on it, pushing up, turning the feet to the front, both feet, and heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, back to the middle. Shake out the arms, well done, well done, well done, well done, okay. Wiggling out, those who want to can wiggle around the ankle joint a bit. We'll work through the feet and ankle joint there. Swing the legs a little, keeping that hinge joint through the knee. Okay, pause. And the last thing to do, I'll do it sideways on, is simply you're sitting on an imaginary stool behind you. Okay, and then bring the arms up, following the line of the calf, lower leg. Okay. Nice stretch, looking up. You see, yes, good poses. And it's that sitting down low enough and getting the hands stretched up enough and looking up. Utkatasana, strong pose. And quite easily, you've had enough in this one, thighs, calves, everything's going enough. So the body is really saying enough. Listen to it. Breathe out, bring the arms down, shake the legs. That's the sequence. Very good. Bit more of a shaky shake. I'm going to go back to the breathing we've been doing. Don't want to make it anything too difficult or complicated breathing at the moment. We're going back to square breathing. You can start it at a count of 4 and we can go up to 6. So just make sure you've got nice socks on your feet, a jacket on if you're going to get cold for this seated breathing. We're going to do it for a few minutes and then we're going to go into corpse pose again for a lovely relaxation. So feels like this is your reward for all that wonderful work on your body. Your body will be so happy. Really, we did a lot of good stuff there. And it will, of course, as usual, you feel this, it's impacting emotionally, mentally, psychologically. If you are suppressing feelings, they tend to come up. And if you are blocking feelings, in any way, whether it's happiness even, it tends to come up. So sometimes you can feel really bad at the end of the yoga class, but it's good in the long run because it's releasing feelings that you're going, I don't want to feel, and actually kind of better up and coming through the system than squashed in. But usually when people are having sort of okay sort of life, nothing too heavy going on, the feeling at the end is it just opens itself up because it's trying to find out what's in there, what needs releasing, and actually it's just a sense of peace and equilibrium, which is why it can often be so nice, but we try not to grasp that figure every time because it doesn't have to be like that. It's not part of the rule book. So the breathing is, remember, we've done it before. You breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, the kumbhaka, the same count of 4, breathe out, 4, kumbhaka at the end. Okay, and you just keep doing that. And when you want to, you take it up by 50%, so you're taking it up to 6. So go at your own pace. If you feel dizzy at any point or you want to break, obviously do. And come back to it, or you can just sit and just watch your normal breathing. Relax the face, enjoy if you can. If you go up to a count of 6, if it feels comfortable. And do another couple of rounds. If you lose the plot, if you can't remember what you were doing, fine, perfectly normal. Just start again, breathe in for 6, hold for 6, breathe out for 6, or take it down to 4, count to 4. Okay, we've done 2 more rounds. Just releasing from that. I forgot to say that most of you know this, you don't have to do this breathing work sitting cross-legged. You can sit on a chair or sofa as long as the spine is upright. You can do it lying down, breathing work. It's just harder on the lungs, and so we tend to say if people can, keep the spine upright. If they can't, better to do it lying down than not do it at all. Okay, so make sure you're warm enough for the final relaxation. Get your blankets underneath you and blankets on top. Make yourself cozy. So, as you know, part of the yoga kind of philosophy is to really take good care of yourself. So you look after yourself just as you would look after other people that you love. And I'm sure if you've had children, you'd be, oh yes, let's put a blanket underneath you, make it nice and soft. You do that for yourself. And then you'll want a blanket above you. Remember, if you've got an eye pillow, it's great. The pressure just around the eye with the eye pillow is super. Quite often people need a couple of blocks, if they're thin blocks, or 1 block underneath their head, just because of the way the neck goes into the skull. And then if you've got bright lights on, that's what I'm doing. Turn off lights that It's not too bright in the room. Okay, so it's going to go a bit dark now. And because you're practicing at home, I will end the session by chanting the Gayatri mantra. And I'll come up and teach those who want to come up how to come up out of the pose. If you want to stay down, stay down. Enjoy the relaxation for longer. So, corpse pose, feet about 1.5 to 2 feet apart, toes going outwards, chin towards the chest, shoulders away, wiggle them away from the head, shoulder blades wiggle them away from each other a bit, and then just check around there. Does that feel good for you? Hands are about, I don't know, about 6 to 10 inches away from the hips, palms upwards. You might need to stretch the hands away out the shoulder joint for a minute and let them relax. Check that didn't adjust the neck vertebra in the wrong way. And then glasses off. If you've got glasses, put them somewhere safe so you don't accidentally stand on them when you get up. Eye pillow if you have it on your eyes. So allowing the breathing to just slowly quieten down. You don't have to do anything to it. If looking at it or observing it makes you feel tight in the breathing, just check your big toes, see how they're doing instead. Take your attention away. The breathing will sort itself out. And then I always find it helpful to imagine the body actually melting heavily into the ground, sinking into the earth. As though the body has become, like I usually say, molten lead, just sort of like fluid dropping away into the earth. So you get that very strong idea of letting it go. You're not holding it anymore. You're not doing anything with it anymore. So the body's going into deeper rest, and we're sort of stepping out of the way, so we're not causing any kind of additional strain or struggle in there. And the body can now really absorb the benefits of our yoga session, of our postures, the asanas we were doing. And all of them were nudging us at all levels into greater, deeper equilibrium. So it'd be terrible to sort of rush out of the class and kind of dash to, I don't know, make tea, change out your yoga clothes. We actually want to absorb the benefits. So we have this pause time at the end of the class, letting every cell and atom of the body absorb the wonderful work that we've been doing, absorb the changes. And if mind wanders off in an unhelpful way, like it's gone to making lists and sort of worry problems, just bring it back to scanning through the body, noticing how the body's feeling. Helps to anchor the awareness to hear this present moment here. And if ever it should be a bit painful lying in Shavasana, lying in corpse pose, please do move, adjust your pose, lie on your side, but don't just suffer it. Do adjust the body. And there's kind of a sweet spot in corpse pose where if you imagine wanting to lift your arm up, it feels so heavy that you can't lift it. That's when we really let it drop away, let go of the body. Same with the legs. So my tendency is to encourage you to stay in the pose. I'd normally suggest after the kind of yoga pose session that we've just done, 15 minutes of corpse pose is good. So don't feel you need to come out of it simply because I'm ending the class after it's 90 minutes. Stay where you are. But I'm just going to chant the Gayatri mantra in Sanskrit. Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonat Prachodayat. Om Shanti. 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 Om. May the material, physical, and celestial spiritual worlds, the supreme being that is the source of all that we acknowledge, may that which has the divine light, the sacred truth within it, may we deeply meditate on that, and may it flood into our awareness, our intellect, so that we may be bestowed with that light and become enlightened. May that be so. Om. Peace, peace, peace. And when anyone does wish to move, do it very slowly. I would always acknowledge that, that the slowest movements are the most beneficial at this stage. So little wriggling toes and fingers, gradually rotating the ankles, maybe the wrists as well. And when you are feeling a little bit more like movement is coming into the body and it feels right for you, it's not necessarily now, you could breathe in and stretch your legs straight, parallel, toes away, toes towards, put your hands up to the heavens or behind you. Allow the body that full stretch, but slow, no sudden movement. And then eventually to come up, we'd always recommend doing it going to the side. So you'd bend the knees, you'd roll over to your left or your right, and then you'd use your arm strength, pushing the hands flat onto the floor to push your torso up until you're comfortably seated. And then just stay there, don't go straight up to standing, just take it nice and slow and steady. Okay, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I wish you a wonderful week. I'm just going to stop the recording.